Tonight I'm presenting the budget, and then tomorrow morning I'll be going off to Beijing, and in Beijing we'll be meeting with two major funding groups. Well, in Beijing I'll be meeting mostly with one of the major airline and tourist investors in the United States. I'm particularly trying to get them to consider Oakland as their base of operations, and maybe to add a tourist level airline into Oakland from China. Sort of like a southwest of Highlands, so a little bit like the southwest of China. And they also own a lot of tourist industries, and so we've been trying to interest them in hotels and basing their tourism here. Like I always, at the Chamber and other places, I always say that, you know, Oakland is actually pretty central to what most foreign visitors want to see in Northern California. They tend to do a day in Monterey, a day at Yosemite, a day in wine country, then maybe 1 or 2 days in San Francisco. We're pretty centrally located. For that, our hotel's about $100 a night, cheaper than San Francisco. And then to get to other places in the country, we have more Southwest Airlines and other low airfare. So it's a great place if you're going to, you know, do national tours. And with the rising Chinese middle class, although they're now hitting the recession, from what I can tell. But it's a growing middle class, certainly compared to my first trip to China as a student in '71. It's basically going to be gone for 6 days, 3 days, 6 days, 3 cities. It's mostly a work trip. I'm not going on any tourist visits, although some people I hear from the port are going to go to the Great Wall of China. I've been there quite a few times with my family. We're going with a couple people asked to pay us for this. The port apparently has an enterprise fund that they're supposed to spend for development, and so no city monies, no taxpayer dollars. This is paid for out of their maritime companies that donate into the enterprise zone. I understand that Port Commissioner, the Vice President, Pam Calloway, and Commissioner Leidy will join us, and we'll be with the main staff, Omar Benjamin, and his major port people. Consul President Reed will be joining me. We will spend 2 days in Beijing. I have a couple of meetings. I'll be meeting with the American Chamber there. We'll be doing a press briefing in Beijing. We'll also do a press briefing in Shenzhen, which is the second city I'm visiting. There we're going to be talking to a group that's already considering and negotiating with the port possible investment in the infrastructure at the port. This group represents Shenzhen, which is the largest industrial city. If you've never been there, it's between Guangzhou and Hong Kong. I remember when it was a cow village the first time I went to China. Now it's just this wall of U.S. companies and other international companies. They produce a lot of the exports to America. They're interested now increasingly in importing goods. I tell the story about how when we hosted them here in Oakland, the president of the company asked me about the wine that we had at the White House, which we were serving that night, and asked me how much it was, and we found out how much it was. He says, you know, I could sell this for $100 a bottle in China. So it's been interesting watching what the Chinese are interested and not interested in. As you know, Oakland stands out among the nation's ports as one of the ports where our exports actually just tipped up above our imports for the first time a couple of months ago. I think that's because our economy's down and they're exporting less to us. But it also represents that for the shipping companies that they can have their ships come here full and go back full. I know that a lot of I'm actually a little worried for the recycling industry, because a lot of the recycling industry has taken advantage of the fact that it will cost about $5,000 to ship a container here and only cost a few hundreds to ship it back, because there's hasn't been competition. But now in Oakland there's going to be increasing competition for those containers that go back, and that might have some impact on that export that we have. When I'm in Shenzhen, we'll also do another press briefing, and I'll be meeting with the Chamber. We'll also be going to their sort of exposition hall. We'll be looking at some of the products that come in from California. including, is it in Shenzhen that I'm doing the Dasha winery, the Oakland winery?
No.
That's in Hong Kong. I'm sorry. So when I'm in Hong Kong, I primarily made a stop there to help market Northern California exports. And when we pulled together the conference, one of the winery groups told me that they had a bar in Hong Kong that they've opened, and a lot of the wineries are using Hong Kong as its way to market, whether it's you're from Chile or Argentina or France, they're using Hong Kong as the way to market wines to the rest of China. And so the East Bay Bar has vintners, 22 of them have pulled together funds and have opened up a bar in the Wanjai section of Hong Kong. And they've been gracious enough to let me ship wines from our 6 Oakland vintners. You may have seen this headline in the Huffington Post that says Oakland is wine country. That we represent the new trend to have urban wineries. So I'm shipping a case of Oakland wines to serve along with the 22 other East Bay wines that they serve at that bar, and we're doing a press event to help market that. We're also going to be stopping by the Dashley winery, if you can get me that, if you get from my list, my itinerary, it might be on my desk. They are one of the major Oakland wineries, and they're exhibiting right now at the Expo in Hong Kong, so we're going to be stopping by that. So that's mostly to promote our exports and just to get more publicity and put a different face on the Port of Oakland for the Chinese. As you know, when I first got inaugurated, and then when I went to the White House, there was a rash of publicity. We're hoping that my being there will help us get our port a little bit more high profile. So if it weren't that the port thought was this important, I probably wouldn't go given that we're in the middle of the budget. So it's literally a very quick turnaround.
Can you talk a little bit more about how this trip and also working with the port will really help long-term the city's economic recovery looking towards the future?
Well, I just use this one simple stat. The White House did a lot of stats because they want to double exports. Right, so the Obama goal is to double U.S. exports by 2015. And their calculation for the Bay Area is if we meet our goal, that's 5,000 jobs. And so that's pretty critical. We're also at a stage where we're trying to modernize our port so that we're still around for the next century. So it used to be that, okay, the Port of Oakland did all the infrastructure, but more and more increasingly around the world, people are doing joint partnerships. We're generally trying to get people to look at using the Port of Oakland and investing in the Port of Oakland. Because the whole modernization of the port's a pretty expensive deal. We want to be the most modern containerized port, obviously, in the country. And that means we're going to more and more ask the people who use the port to invest in the infrastructure.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're expecting? I mean, I don't know when the last time was you were in China, but as mayor, going there with this title, how are you expecting to be received? I mean, what do you expect?
This is really more a quicken business thing. In fact, we're pretty much avoiding the protocol things and hoping not to insult anybody. I'm not. The Beijing government's been here, and there are a group of women who actually came and were very interested in what we're doing with domestic violence. And I've done a sort of a behind backdoor thing to say, I'm going to be in Beijing. It's just for this business meeting. I plan to come back later in the year and to make a more formal, return visit to them. I have not been to our sister city, Dalian, which is this huge industrial city, since I've become mayor, and they've been inviting me. And again, so I may pull together a group in the fall and do the more pro forma. This is, we're in the middle of the budget. I told the port I would only stay a few days, and so they're literally taking me to 3 cities, 3 days, in 6 days. I'm just going into very specific meetings to meet with the chamber, to do some PR with the Chinese media to try to raise the profile of the port. That's it. People in China don't get how our business is so separate from our government. When we go to China and we have trade, the companies and the big dignitaries are there together. And I think we're trying to give them more confidence if they invest in Oakland, that the political structure blesses this too. And I think that's what they want. You have to ask the port more what they want out of me being there. I think, first of all, they haven't had a mayor that's traveled like this before. They certainly haven't had a mayor that's had as high profile in China like this before. And I think it's just also this thing, when the Chinese come here, they're investors, they're political people, and their government bureaucrats come as a team, right? And so I think that's what the port is hoping to demonstrate here, that the political leadership of the city cares about the port, that the political machinery is going to so for instance, when we were talking about the port and the China merchants were here, their banker happens to be German, and it happened to be the day when Jerry Brown was about to do the land grab on the redevelopment agency. He leaned over and said, so do you think you're still going to have control of the port? And I said, absolutely. We just transferred the land to the city from the redevelopment agency. But they were paying attention that closely.
On mentioning the export goals of the Obama administration, this 5,000 jobs, that would be
Just
for the Bay Area, not just Oakland?
Just related to the Oakland port.
To the Oakland port?
Yes. That's as far as the breakdown went. Obviously, we're trying to I get to appoint the port commissioners. I'm going to try to keep as many of those jobs here in Oakland as possible. But as I've been saying lately in our regional meetings, the Bay Area really is a region. The Chinese see us as a region. This morning at EDAB, I talk about how I always wait for that time when we've had tea at some sister city or whatever, and they ask us how many people we have, and I say 400,000. They always politely ask me again because they're sure they misheard me, because we're supposed to be a major American city, and for them, a major city is not. It has to have at least 2 million people. And then I always quickly say, and San Francisco only has 900,000, and San Jose has just about 1 million. Together, we're about 3 million. And then they all nod. Okay, all right, they get it. It's like Shanghai and Pudong. It is one economic region. But they're always sort of shocked when we mention that.
I'm wondering what your expectations are for tonight's meeting. This is really the first opportunity for City Council to publicly kind of really put out their views. What is it that you want?
What usually happens in the first session, what was unusual is I did an earlier one. I previewed what some of the options were that we were looking at. So that we did that how many weeks ago? About 3 weeks ago, a month ago. We did a preview of what we thought the baseline budget was and what some of the bigger options would be. This is just a more specific, and so we did that at our day-long retreat. And I tried to get feelings from people what their priorities were, feedback. Some people gave us priorities, some people didn't. Then we used that information to build the 3 scenarios, right? So this is really the first formal chance to present those to them, take their questions, and historically that's what happens. Now, if people have their own positions on their counter budgets, that will be great, because then we'll be much earlier. What usually happens is this meeting, we present, people ask a few questions, and then it's the second meeting that people start having counters and things that they really love or really hate, or say, take that out, or we're not going to do this, or we're not going to do that. And then what will be interesting to see, if they don't want to do a certain thing, then they have to find a substitute for it. But I think among those 3 options pretty much are all the potential solutions. There might be a few other ones that we hadn't thought about. We'll see. And then meanwhile, we're still moving ahead on negotiations with all the employees. We're trying to get this all to come together on June 30th. And if we get a parcel tax on the ballot, we'll have to do a budget that's a transitional budget, and that will have layoffs in July and August no matter what. And then we'll see whether or not the parcel tax passes. But we'll have to decide in priority what people want to bring back.